This podcast is brought to you by Stevie Wicks.
Welcome back to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today we're going deep into a character who is as beloved as he is misunderstood. Gandalf from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, misunderstood is it is definitely the understatement of the century here. I mean, we have completely meme-ified him at this point.
Yeah.
We've turned him into this this kindly grandfather figure. You know, the guy you'd see on the front of a birthday card?
Right. The pop culture osmosis version of him is super specific. You've got the pointy hat and the big gray beard and, of course, the pipeweed.
Exactly.
He shows up in a little wooden cart and sets off some fireworks for the local kids. Maybe he casts a quick light spell to scare off a wolf or something.
Yeah, he feels like the absolute archetype of the classic Dungeons & Dragons wizard.
Like Middle-earth's version of Merlin, basically.
Right. A human guy who just studied really hard and learned some magic words and got old.
And that's just the surface-level view, isn't it?
It is the surface level, yes. And to be fair, that is exactly what he wanted people in Middle-earth to think. It was a disguise.
A very effective one.
Very. But if we are going to understand who he actually is and why his story is actually this massive tragedy and triumph on a cosmic scale, we have to completely shatter that image.
We really do.
Because the reality is, he's not human.
Yeah.
He isn't even a wizard in the way we usually use that word today. Like someone who went to Hogwarts or spent decades studying in a library.
Right. And this is where my brain just completely started to melt when I was prepping for this discussion. We aren't talking about a talented old guy with a staff.
No.
We are talking about something else entirely.
We are talking about a biological weapon sent by God.
Okay, see, that is a phrase I do not normally associate with the Shire. Biological weapon.
I know it sounds intense, but it is completely accurate.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about an entity that existed before the physical world was even made.
Wow.
In the hierarchy of this universe, he is a Maia. Effectively, if we want to use a real-world theological analogy, he is an angel incarnate.
An angel?
Yeah, he is a spirit of the exact same order as Sauron himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sent down on a very specific and very restricted mission.
Which completely changes everything about how you read the books or watch the movies. It really turns the whole story from, a wizard helping some guys out into this epic cosmic struggle between two angelic beings.
One fallen and one faithful, exactly.
So here's our roadmap for the conversation today so you know where we're headed. We are going to unpack his true identity and his life in the blessed realm Valinor before he ever even stepped foot in Middle-earth.
We also need to look at the psychology of his leadership. Why does a being of such immense cosmic power choose to lead by guiding rather than dominating?
Yeah, why does he spend so much time with hobbits instead of kings? Right?
Exactly.
And then we have to talk about fear. This was honestly the biggest surprise for me in the research for this. We found some fascinating details about why he was actually afraid to come to Middle-earth in the first place.
He was terrified. And we are going to argue that that fear was actually his greatest asset. It is the core reason he didn't turn into a monster.
Right. And of course, we will discuss the transformation too. The theological and physical differences between the gray and the white. Because it's not just a costume change.
No, it is a fundamental shift in authority. A promotion, really.
So buckle up. We are treating the history of this lore as historical fact today. Let's peel back the layers. Let's start with the angel under the hat. You mentioned he is a Maia. I think for a lot of you listening, the cosmology can get a little dense. Can we simplify the org chart a bit?
Absolutely we can. So at the very top of the org chart, you have Eru Iluvatar, the one, the creator. Think of him as God with a capital G. He exists completely outside of the universe.
Okay, tracking so far.
Then Eru creates the Ainur. These are the holy ones. They are spirits born from his thought. They exist before the physical universe, which they call Ilea, is even made.
So they're chilling in the void, basically.
Right. And they actually sing the universe into existence. It's
Yeah.
called the music of the Ainur.
So he was there for the Big Bang.
He was part of the choir that caused the Big Bang.
That is wild to think about.
He has existed since the beginning of thought itself. Now, when the world is actually made, some of these spirits decide to go down into it, to build it and prepare it for elves and men.
To get it ready for the actual physical inhabitants.
Exactly. And the greatest of these spirits are called the Valar.
These are the heavy hitters.
Think of the Valar like archangels, or maybe even the gods of a pantheon. You have Manwë, the king of the winds, Ulmo, the lord of the waters, Uli the Smith who literally makes the mountains.
They are the governors of reality.
That's a great way to put it. They govern the physical laws of the world.
Okay, so where does our guy fit into all this?
Well, every general needs officers, right? Every CEO needs vice presidents. The Maia are the spirits of the exact same order as the Valar, just of slightly less power. They are the servants and the helpers.
And this is a class of beings that includes some very familiar names for anyone who knows the lore.
Oh, absolutely. This is the scary part, actually. Sauron is a Maia. Yeah. The Balrogs are mayors, who were corrupted by shadow and flame in the really deep past. And he is a Maia. They are all spiritual siblings, in a sense.
They are the same species.
They are the same species, yeah.
That is deeply disturbing. So when we see him fighting the Balrog later on, it's not an old man fighting a fire monster.
Not at all.
It's a family feud.
It is a civil war in heaven that is spilling over onto the earth.
Okay, so long before he had a beard or a staff or was wandering around the Shire, he had a name in the West, in Valinor.
Yes. His original name was Olorin, and the historical texts tell us that Olorin was the wisest of the Maor.
Wisest in what sense, though? Because usually when we hear that, we think of a walking encyclopedia.
Right, you think of someone who just knows a lot of facts or history. But his wisdom wasn't about data retention. It was a very specific kind of wisdom derived from who he associated with in Valinor.
I loved this detail when we were looking through the sources. We usually hear about heroes going to boot camp, learning to use a sword, lifting weights, getting tough.
Doing push-ups in the mud.
Exactly, but Olorin's training was really weird.
It was incredibly weird by modern standards. He spent time in the gardens of Irmo. Irmo is the master of visions and dreams. So he was a dreamer.
Okay, so he's hanging out in dream gardens.
Right. But his real mentorship, the one that truly seems to define his entire character arc, was under Nienna.
Nienna, she is one of the Valar, right? One of the gods.
She is. She is the Lady of Mercy. But her domain isn't war or wisdom or crafting mountains. Her domain is grief.
Grief.
Yes. She sits in the halls of waiting, and she literally weeps for the wounds of the world. And Olorin studied under her.
That seems like a really heavy education. You aren't learning how to throw fireballs or swing an axe. You're learning how to cry.
In a way, yes. From Nienna, he learned pity and patience.
But hold on a second. If you're gearing up to fight a war against the ultimate evil, why is pity a qualification? You'd think you'd want to study with Tulkas, the war god. You'd want to be as tough as possible.
That is definitely the intuitive answer, right? You want the biggest gun. But think about the enemy here. Sauron is entirely about domination.
Right, he wants to control everything.
He breaks things to make them serve him. He imposes his will on reality. If you try to fight Sauron with just raw strength and sheer will, you start thinking exactly like him.
You start thinking, I need to dominate the enemy in order to win.
Exactly. And then you just become the thing you're fighting.
Which is exactly what happens to Saruman later on.
Bingo. Saruman studies power. He studies mechanics and industry. And he falls completely. But Nienna taught Olorin that pity is actually a shield.
A shield against corruption.
Yes. If you can mourn for your enemy, or at least mourn for the damage that has been done to the world, you stay grounded. You don't get high on your own power.
You realize that the goal isn't to win the argument or flex your muscles. The goal is to heal the wound.
It is emotional intelligence as a combat mechanic.
That is such a fascinating way to frame it. Emotional intelligence as a combat mechanic. And we see this in how he acted back in Valinor, right? He wasn't walking around glowing with divine majesty.
Not at all. The texts say he would walk unseen among the elves. He wouldn't reveal his power to them.
Just lurking in the background.
Not lurking so much as helping quietly. He would whisper fair visions into their hearts. If an elf was despairing or sad, he would be there invisible, just pushing a tiny thought of hope into their mind.
He was always a rekindler of hope, never a dominator.
Always.
It's a really beautiful image to picture, this invisible ancient spirit walking among the people just to make them feel a little more hopeful about their day. He's basically a cosmic antidepressant.
He really is.
Yeah.
And that sets the stage for absolutely everything he does later. He always prefers the background. He prefers the nudge over the shove.
Now let's fast forward a bit. We get this visual of him later as the Odinic Wanderer. Because the visual is so iconic, but it didn't just come out of nowhere.
No, it didn't. The author was a philologist and a massive lover of Norse mythology. He explicitly compared him to Odin in his wanderer guise.
Right, the old man with one eye, the wide-brimmed hat, the long cloak, walking through the world, testing people's hospitality.
Exactly. Carrying a staff, popping in unannounced to see how you treat a stranger.
And there was that postcard too, right? The one he kept as inspiration.
Yes, Der Berggeist, the mountain spirit. It was a painting by a German artist, Joseph Madlener. It shows this old man sitting on a rock under a pine tree in the mountains. He's wearing a big hat and a cloak, and he's feeding a little white fawn.
And he saw this years before writing The Hobbit and just kept it.
He kept it and basically said that is him. That is the origin point for the visual design.
It really grounds the character. He's not some pristine king in a marble castle. He's a traveler. He's closer to the dirt and the trees than he is to a throne.
Absolutely.
But he didn't just decide to travel to Middle-earth for a vacation. This was an official mission.
It was a military mission,
Right.
though a very, very unconventional one.
So set the scene for us. It is around the year 1000 of the Third Age. Sauron has been defeated before, but he's not gone. His shadow is creeping back.
Correct. The Valar, the Masters of the West, hold a council. They realize that Sauron is returning. He's rebuilding his strength in secret in Dol Guldur.
Bad news for everyone.
Very bad. And they know they need to send emissaries to Middle-earth to help the Free People's elves, and men resist him.
But they have a major constraint here. They can't just go over there themselves and deal with it.
They absolutely cannot. In the ancient past, the First Age, when the Valar actually went to war physically, they literally broke the continent.
Like earth-shattering damage.
Entire regions sank under the ocean. They are just too big and too powerful. It is like trying to do delicate open-heart surgery with a wrecking ball.
The Godzilla problem, you step on the city to save the city.
Exactly. So this time around, they decide on a much subtler approach. They will send the Istari, the wizards. But they must be clothed in flesh.
They have to be embodied.
Yes.
Now, we really need to pause and double-click on this, because I think most people think he is just an angel wearing a human suit, like a meat suit he can unzip if he really needs to.
It is absolutely not a costume. It is a profound binding. When the Istari took those bodies, the bodies of old men, they completely accepted the limitations of biology.
So they could actually physically feel things?
Everything. They felt hunger. They felt thirst. They felt the physical ache of sleeping on the cold ground.
Wow.
If you cut them, they bled real blood. If you stabbed them, they died.
And what about their memories of being divine spirits?
Dimmed. That is the exact key word the texts use. Their divine knowledge was dimmed.
That sounds terrifying, honestly.
Imagine you have access to the entire internet directly in your brain, and then suddenly you are completely unplugged. You remember that you used to know all these vast cosmic truths, but the specific details are hazy and out of reach.
So they had to learn things like mortals do.
Yes. They had to rely on memory, they had to read books, and they had doubts.
And crucially, they could feel fear. Real, visceral, biological human fear.
Which brings us right to the draft. The Valar ask for volunteers for this incredibly dangerous mission.
And the dynamic between him and Saruman starts right here in this exact meeting, doesn't it?
It does. Curamo, who later becomes Saruman, steps forward immediately. He's super eager. He volunteers right out of the gate.
He's the guy who got straight A's in wizard school.
Right. He is the mighty one associated with Ilea the Smith. He wants the job. He wants to lead the project.
He's the class president, basically.
Exactly. And Manwë, the king of the Valar, looks around the room. He completely ignores the eager volunteer, and he asks, where is Olwen?
He just straight up calls him out.
He calls him out, and Olwen is standing all the way in the back, probably trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. And Manwë asks him to go as the third messenger.
And this is the moment. This is the big hero moment where the music swells and the hero accepts his destiny to save the world.
Except he doesn't. He outright refuses.
He tries to get out of it.
He explicitly tells Manwë that he is too weak for such a task. And then he says the quiet part out loud.
It is?
He says that he fears Sauron.
That is just incredible to me. The hero of the story, the guy we all look up to as the ultimate wise leader, basically says, I'm scared of the bad guy, please don't send me.
Can you imagine the heavy silence in that room? Saruman is standing there, chest puffed out, thinking, well, I'm certainly not scared.
Right.
And Olwen is openly admitting weakness in front of the gods.
But Manwë's response is the really profound part here.
It is. Manwë says that fear is exactly why he must go.
Unpack that for us. Why on earth is being afraid of the Dark Lord a qualification for the job? Usually you want your generals to be utterly fearless.
Because in this specific spiritual and physical war, fearlessness is actually a massive liability.
How so?
Saruman didn't fear Sauron. Saruman genuinely thought he could outsmart him or maybe even rival his power. That complete lack of fear, that immense pride, is what eventually led Saruman to think he could safely handle the Palantir.
Oh, right, the Seeing Stones.
Yeah, he thought he could play both sides. He thought he was intellectually strong enough to touch the darkness without it corrupting him.
And he was completely wrong.
Dead wrong, he got played. But the fear that Olorin had ensured he would stay true to the mission. He actually knew his own limitations. He respected the enemy's power.
So the fear kept him humble.
It kept him intensely cautious. It meant he would never ever try to match Sauron power for power, which was the ultimate trap.
Because you simply cannot beat the Dark Lord at his own game. He's the master of domination.
Exactly. If you try to dominate Sauron, you just end up becoming another Sauron. That fear was his safety tether. It forced him to rely on others rather than just his own strength.
So reluctantly, he agrees to go. They are sent across the sea. And he's the very last one to arrive in Middle-earth, right?
He arrived last, yes. And to the casual observer on the docks, he looked the absolute least impressive of the bunch.
Just a tired old man.
He was shorter than the others, he looked older, his hair was grayer, and he was leaning heavily on a staff. Saruman arrived first looking majestic and tall in pristine white robes. The blue wizards arrived in sea blue.
But when he steps off that ship at the Grey Havens, someone is waiting for him. Círdan, the shipwright.
And Círdan is hugely important here. He's one of the oldest elves left in the world.
He is ancient.
Ancient. He has lived through the First and Second Ages. And he has the gift of deep foresight. He looks at this weary gray pilgrim stepping off the boat, and he instantly sees past the biology. He sees the inner spirit.
He sees the fire within him.
Yes. And in secret, Círdan gives him a massively powerful gift. Narya. The Ring of Fire.
One of the 3 elven rings of power. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky.
Correct. Círdan was the original keeper of the Red Ring, and he just hands it over. He says, take this ring, master, for your labors will be heavy, but it will support you in the weariness that you have taken upon yourself.
He just gives away his greatest magical treasure to the guy who literally just showed up looking like a vagabond. And this breeds instant resentment from the head of the order, doesn't it?
Oh, massive resentment. Saruman learns of this secret gift later, and he is furious.
I bet.
He thinks to himself, I am the head of the order. I am the powerful one, the impressive one. Why on earth did the Elf Lord give the Ring of Power to this gray wandering beggar?
It's the ultimate professional jealousy.
It is the absolute seed of the rift between them.
Yes, sir.
Saruman feels deeply slighted.
Let's talk about Narya for a second. Because when we hear Ring of Fire, especially in a fantasy genre context, I think we naturally expect him to be out there throwing giant fireballs like he's in a video game.
Right, like a flamethrower.
Yeah.
But that is not what this ring does at all. And he rarely uses direct defensive magic like that anyway.
So what is the fire?
The fire of Narya is metaphorical, though it carries immense spiritual weight. It is the fire of inspiration.
Inspiration.
Yes, its primary power is to kindle hearts in a world that is rapidly growing cold and despairing.
Which honestly aligns perfectly with his actual mission brief.
Perfect alignment.
Yeah.
Remember, his job isn't to fight the physical war for the free peoples. His job is to get them to fight for themselves, to wake them up from their apathy.
So when you see him rallying the terrified troops at the gates of Minas Tirith, or snapping King Theoden out of that deep, dark despair in the Golden Hall that is Narya at work?
That is exactly Narya at work. He is actively pumping courage and vital hope into people who have completely given up on themselves.
That is his real magic, then. I mean, sure, he can light a pine cone on fire if he's trapped in a tree, but his real magic is making a terrified regular soldier stand his ground against a 20-foot mountain troll.
Precisely. He is an emotional battery charger for Middle-earth.
Yeah.
And that entirely dictates his long-term strategy. He officially becomes the Grey Pilgrim.
Because he never settles down.
Right. Saruman settles down immediately. Isengard builds a giant stone fortress and starts dealing in heavy machinery and messy politics. Sauron obviously has Mordor.
But our guy has no home base.
None. He wanders constantly. He goes to the Shire. He goes to Gondor. He spends time with the elves. He's steadily building a massive network of friendships.
And that network eventually leads him to the Hobbits, which is the ultimate wild card in the history of this world.
It really is. The other wise and powerful people of the world completely ignore the hobbits. Saruman actively scoffs at them, thinks they are entirely useless.
But he loves them.
He saw something in them that the wise completely missed. A deep toughness, a quiet resilience. And specifically, he saw it with Bilbo Baggins. He sensed that Bilbo was so much more than he appeared on the surface.
This connects directly to the quest of Erebor, right? The main plot of The Hobbit. On the surface, to the casual reader, it's just a classic treasure hunt. A bunch of dwarves want their stolen gold back from a dragon.
Yes, but he was playing a much bigger game.
He had a geopolitical motive for helping them.
Oh, absolutely. He was playing 4D chess while everyone else was focused on local politics. He knew Sauron was slowly coming back to power. He knew that if a massive war came, Sauron would definitely try to attack the north, to strike at Rivendell and Lothlorien.
And if Smaug the dragon was still just sitting up there on that mountain, Sauron could easily ally with the dragon.
Imagine the war if Sauron had heavy air support.
It would be an instant game over.
A dragon is a flying weapon of mass destruction. He absolutely needed that dragon taken off the board before the real war started. And he needed a strong, restored dwarven kingdom in the north to act as a physical bulwark against the armies of the dark.
So Bilbo, the little unassuming hobbit, was really just the specific catalyst for that massive geopolitical master plan.
Exactly. He needed a burglar to get things moving.
But during that little side quest, the catalyst finds a trinket in the dark. Bilbo finds magic ring, and this is a major point of contention for some critics of the story.
It's a famous plot hole.
Right. People ask, why didn't he, the wisest of the Mare, know it was the One Ring immediately? It seems like a massive, unbelievable oversight on his part.
It is very easy to say that with hindsight. We, as the audience, know it's the One Ring. But we have to remember the historical context he was operating in.
Put us in his shoes.
In that specific age, magic rings were not completely unheard of. The elves made many trial rings called essay rings long before they made the great rings of power.
Just practice rings, basically.
Yeah, there were lesser rings floating around the world that just made you invisible and didn't hold world-ending power.
And the One Ring itself is incredibly tricky, isn't it?
It is a master deceiver. It has a malicious will of its own. It actively concealed its true nature from him.
Because when Bilbo first found it, he didn't show the typical symptoms of a Dark Lord.
Not at all. He wasn't trying to conquer the Shire or build armies. He was just using it to turn invisible to avoid some annoying relatives or sneak past goblins. It seemed like a purely useful little utility object.
But he was suspicious, though, right?
He was deeply suspicious. But he couldn't just arbitrarily accuse his dear friend of holding the most evil and dangerous object in recorded history without hard proof.
Right. You can't just guess about something like that.
It actually took him nearly 80 years of grueling research to figure it out.
80 years.
He had to physically hunt for Gollum through the wild to get the backstory of how it was found. He had to ride all the way down to the ancient archives of Minas Tirith and dig through dusty old scrolls just to read the Scroll of Isildur to find the exact description of the inscription.
The fire writing on the band.
Exactly. This wasn't negligence on his part at all. It was extreme due diligence. And honestly, it was just wise caution.
Because if he was wrong and he tried to take the ring from Bilbo by force, he completely destroys their friendship and potentially breaks Bilbo's mind for no reason.
He had to be absolutely sure before he made a move.
And when he finally is sure, we get that incredibly tense moment in Bag End when Frodo literally offers him the ring. He says, "You take it." And his reaction is pure, unadulterated terror.
He literally jumps backward away from it. Do not tempt me. It is easily one of the most revealing lines in the entire text.
Why is he so deeply afraid of it, though? We established he's an angel. He's fundamentally good. Couldn't he just use its power to fix everything and defeat Sauron easily?
That is the ultimate trap of the ring. He knows with absolute certainty that if he took it, he wouldn't start out trying to be evil.
He'd have good intentions.
He would take it out of pity. He would take it to end the suffering of the world. But the ring completely twists everything it touches. He would end up using his immense power to brutally enforce goodness.
Enforce goodness? That sounds terrifying. That sounds like tyranny.
It is the absolute worst kind of tyranny. A tyrant who genuinely thinks he is saving you is impossible to reason with.
You can't argue with someone who believes they have the moral high ground while they crush you.
Exactly. He would become a massive moral dictator, forcing the entire world to be good according to his specific definition until he had crushed all free will.
He would basically just become a self-righteous Sauron.
And he knows it. That intense self-awareness is, again, his ultimate saving grace.
It all comes back to that humility from Valinor, knowing he simply isn't psychologically strong enough to resist that specific temptation. All right, we are going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, but when we come back, we are going to dive headfirst into the darkest and most intense moment of his journey, the minds of Moria the Balrog and what actually happened when he fell off that bridge. Don't go anywhere. And we are back. We are continuing our analysis of the reality of this iconic character. We've established he is an incarnate angel, an expert in pity, and a leader who leads by empowering others specifically because he's terrified of his own potential for domination.
That is a very solid summary of where we are.
Now, we really have to go to the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. This is the ultimate showdown. The Fellowship is desperately fleeing through the dark. They are trapped, and a massive shadow rises from the deep. But before the swords even clash, we really need to clearly identify the opponent here, the Balrog, Durin's Bane.
A literal nightmare from the ancient world. But here's the key fact, and this connects perfectly back to our earlier point about his origins. The Balrog is a Maia, too.
Wait, so they're the exact same species?
They are. They are of the exact same divine order of spirits. The Balrog was a Maia who was completely corrupted by Morgoth, the original Dark Lord, before Sauron, in the deepest ancient past.
So it became a spirit of shadow and flame.
Yes. So when he turns around to face the Balrog on that bridge, this isn't a human wizard fighting a mindless monster.
Right.
This is two ancient angels fighting, one fallen and one faithful. It is a completely peer-to-peer combat scenario.
That adds so much incredible weight to the entire scene. It completely explains why Legolas and Gimli, who are usually totally fearless, are paralyzed with terror. But he turns around and holds his ground.
He knows exactly what it is. Yeah. And he knows he is the only one who can even attempt to stop it.
Then he makes that incredibly famous declaration, "I am a servant to the secret fire wielder of the Flame of Anor." Right. You usually just hear that and think, well, that's a cool wizard line, but he is actually laying down a heavy theological resume right there, isn't he?
He is outright stating his divine allegiance. He is legally declaring his jurisdiction in this fight.
Break those terms down for us. What is the secret fire?
The secret fire, in this mythology, refers specifically to the flame imperishable. That is the creative, life-giving power of Ilúvatar, the one God. It is the power to give true life.
Okay.
By loudly saying, "I am a servant of the secret fire," he is directly telling the Balrog, "I still serve the Creator. You serve the empty void."
Oh, wow. And what about the Flame of Anor?
Anor is the Sindarin word for the sun. The sun is a fruit of the ancient two trees of Valinor, a holy pure light. He is directly contrasting it with the Balrog's flame of Udun.
And Udun?
Udun is an ancient name for the dark underground fortress of Morgoth. Essentially, it means hell.
So he is telling the monster, "I wield the pure fire of the sun in creation, and you wield the dark, corrupted fire of hell. Your fire will not avail you here."
Exactly. He's basically saying, my cosmic authority completely trumps your corrupted power.
And then he shatters the bridge.
He uses the staff, yes.
Which is an interesting detail. Is the staff the actual source of his magic?
No, the staff is strictly a physical tool. It is a conduit of his authority. It's not the battery that powers him. His power is completely intrinsic to his angelic spirit. But the staff helps channel and focus it in the physical world.
So breaking the stone bridge was a physical manifestation of that authority?
It was a direct act of authority over the physical architecture of the world. He denies the Balrog passage. He says you cannot pass.
Which isn't just a prediction.
No, it's a decree, a divine command.
But then he falls. The flaming whip catches his ankle. "Fly, you fools!" And down into the dark he goes. Now in the movies, we see them falling and fighting for a bit, and then it cuts away. But the book describes an ordeal that is just absolutely insane.
It is harrowing, truly harrowing. They fall into the black abyss for a very long time. And the fire of the Balrog is actually extinguished by the freezing dark waters at the very bottom of the chasm.
So it's not even made of fire anymore down there?
No, it becomes this slimy, strangling thing of pure shadow. He says the water was cold enough to almost freeze his heart entirely.
And they just keep fighting in the freezing water.
They grapple in the freezing water, in the utter pitch-black dark, amidst what he calls nameless things that gnaw at the roots of the world.
Ancient monsters that don't even have names.
Things older than Sauron. Then the Balrog finally panics and flees, and he actively chases it.
Wait, he chases it? That seems totally counterintuitive for an old man who just survived a fall like that.
He has to. He knows he absolutely cannot leave this ancient evil alive to threaten the world later, so they literally climb the endless stair together.
Which goes where?
It goes from the deepest, darkest dungeon of Moria all the way up to the highest snow-covered peak Siraxagil. This is a vertical physical ascent of thousands and thousands of feet, and they are brutally fighting the entire way up.
That is just incomprehensible endurance. We are talking about a guy in a biological old man's body doing this.
The battle goes on for days,
Yeah.
and then finally on the frozen peak, we get the Battle of the Peak. The Balrog bursts into new flames.
So the fire comes back.
Yes. They fight a massive duel where literal lightning and storms rage around the mountain peaks. And finally, through sheer will, he casts the Balrog down and breaks its ruin on the mountainside.
He actually wins.
He wins, but the physical effort completely kills him.
He actually physically dies there.
He dies. His physical body is completely destroyed. The text very poetically says he strayed out of thought and time.
Meaning
His angelic spirit fully left the circles of the physical world.
So technically at that specific moment, the mission is over. He failed. He's dead.
By the established physical rules of the mission, yes, it is over. But then something completely unprecedented in the lore happens.
The Valar don't send him back, do they?
No, the Valar don't have that kind of authority over life and death. Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme god of this universe, directly intervenes.
Oh, wow.
This is arguably the only time in the entire story where God directly, aggressively steps in. Eru picks up his spirit, enhances it massively, and physically sends him back into a new healed body.
Why, though? Why break the rules for him?
Because his specific task wasn't finished yet. And, frankly, because he was the absolute only one of the 5 Istaris who actually stayed true to the mission.
But he doesn't come back exactly the same, does he? He is the White Rider now.
And this is the major pivot point of his entire character arc. He tells the 3 hunters, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, something very, very strange when he first reunites with them in the forest.
What does he say?
He says, "I am Saruman," or rather Saruman as he should have been.
What does that even mean, I am Saruman?
It means he has officially received a massive promotion from management.
From Eru.
Right. Saruman was the head of the order. They're white. But Saruman completely betrayed the mission. So when our guy is sent back, he is explicitly given Saruman's former authority.
He is now the head of the order.
He's the white wizard now. He has literally replaced the trainer.
So the change from gray to white isn't just a fancy wardrobe upgrade. It's not just clean laundry.
No, it is a massive structural upgrade in his authority and permitted power. Think about the stark difference in his general demeanor.
Yeah, the gray was very cautious, hesitant sometimes, often grumpy.
He was a counselor, a wanderer. But the white is incredibly decisive. He is commanding. He actually physically glows with hidden power sometimes.
And his mind seems sharper, too.
He possesses much greater foresight. He doesn't laugh nearly as much. He is significantly more terrifying to his enemies.
We really see this raw power when he finally confronts Saruman at the Tower of Orthanc later on.
Yes, this is the ultimate proof of the promotion in action. They stand at the foot of the massive tower. Saruman tries to use his magically persuasive voice to beguile the king and the riders.
And it almost works on them.
It almost works, but he just laughs at it. And then with a single verbal command, he completely breaks Saruman's staff.
He just says it and it physically breaks.
He literally just says, "Your staff is broken." And it violently shatters.
Which is huge, because in the first part of the story, Saruman was tossing him around the room with telekinesis.
Exactly. But now, he easily strips Saruman of his power and his rank with one single sentence. That is the fundamental difference between the gray and the white. He now holds the official authority to fire Saruman.
But he still clearly has limitations, right? He doesn't just confidently march into Mordor and nuke Sauron with holy fire.
No. The core rules of engagement are still in place. He is still in a physical body. He is still strictly forbidden from matching Sauron power for power.
So how does he use the new power then?
He uses his enhanced power strictly to reveal and bolster the strength in others. Look at how he approaches healing King Theoden.
Right, he doesn't just go out and fight the war for Rohan himself.
He heals the king's poisoned mind so the king can stand up and lead his own people to victory. He aggressively rallies the failing defense of Minas Tirith. He is still the Kindler of Hearts, just a much, much brighter and more powerful flame now.
Speaking of things people think he really should have done with his power, we absolutely have to address the elephant, or rather the giant bird in the room, the eagles.
Ah, yes. The infamous, why didn't they just fly the ring to Mordor argument.
It's the classic internet meme. Everyone always brings it up. He says, fly, you fools, and people think he literally meant get on the birds. Why didn't they just airdrop the ring directly into Mount Doom and save everybody 3 books worth of walking in trouble?
It is a genuinely funny thought experiment.
Yeah.
But within the established logic of the lore, it collapses almost immediately.
Break it down for us. Let's kill the meme. Why is this a terrible strategic plan?
First off, the eagles are not a taxi service.
They aren't just giant animals.
No, they are highly sentient, extremely proud, ancient beings. They're direct servants of Manwë. They intervene only in very extreme moments of divine grace. You absolutely cannot just whistle for them to do your heavy lifting chores.
Okay, so they have their own agency and their own politics.
Precisely. Second, and most practically, stealth was the absolutely only viable option for this quest.
Because Sauron has the skies locked down?
Sauron has total air superiority. He has the Nazgul flying around on massive fell beasts. He has the Great Eye, which watches everything that moves openly.
So flying in is a bad idea.
A flock of giant, majestic eagles flying straight toward the heavily fortified borders of Mordor is the most blatantly obvious target imaginable. They would have been easily intercepted and slaughtered by the Nazgul before they even got close to the mountain.
It's basically like trying to fly a very slow, very loud cargo plane directly into heavily defended enemy airspace with 0 fighter cover.
That is exactly what it is. The whole strategic point of the Fellowship was that they were incredibly small, they walked, they crept through the dirt.
Sauron wasn't looking for a couple of starving hobbits crawling on their bellies.
Right, he would definitely look up and see giant eagles.
And there's a serious corruption element too, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The ring rapidly corrupts powerful beings. We already established he was terrified to even touch it. Lady Galadriel violently refused it.
Right.
Now imagine a giant, physically powerful ancient eagle carrying the ring for hundreds of miles. If that eagle gets corrupted and claims the ring, you suddenly have a flying Dark Lord. It's a total disaster waiting to happen.
So definitely no Eagle Uber. Got it.
No Eagle Uber. It would have ended the world.
Let's zoom out to the big picture as we wrap up. There were officially 5 wizards sent right, 5 Istari total.
Yes, 5.
And when you look at the final scorecard for this massive angelic intervention, it's really not great for the home team.
It is a near total mission failure, statistically speaking.
Oh, let's run through them. Saruman, the leader.
Completely corrupted by his own pride and desire for order, turned into a traitor. Massive failure.
Radagast the Brown.
A bit more benign, but still functionally a failure. He just got totally distracted. He fell in love with the birds and the beasts and the mushrooms of Middle-earth.
He forgot the mission.
He completely forgot the mission to specifically help elves and men. He essentially went native. He helped out inadvertently a few times, but he basically abandoned his post.
And what about the 2 blue wizards, LOTR and Palando?
They marched off into the Far East and simply never returned. The author actually gave a few different conflicting accounts of them over his life.
Really?
Yeah, in some earlier versions, he wrote that they failed completely and started dark magic cults in the East. In later scattered notes, he suggested maybe they actually helped incite quiet rebellions in the East that kept Sauron's eastern forces split.
But either way, they didn't finish the job.
Ultimately, they did not return to report in.
So our guy, the Grey Pilgrim, is literally the singular one who stayed on task. He is the only one who actually reports back to headquarters.
The only total success story of the 5. And the profound irony of it all is that he was the exact one who didn't want to go in the first place.
He was the one who stood up in front of the gods and said he was too weak.
Exactly.
Why did he succeed, though? If he was arguably the weakest physically, if he was the most afraid, why was he the only one left standing at the end of the age?
Because of that exact weakness. Because he didn't arrogantly trust his own strength. He consistently relied on others. He relied on building deep friendships. He relied on humble hobbits.
While Saruman was looking for power in high towers and heavy machinery.
Right. He looked for strength in simple, everyday people. He fully realized that the ultimate victory belonged to what they call the small hands.
He understood that the massive world-ending threats aren't usually solved by mighty, arrogant heroes swinging swords, but by everyday people just stubbornly doing their duty.
Precisely. And when the massive war is finally over, look at what he does with all that newly acquired authority. He doesn't set himself up as a ruler at all.
He doesn't try to become the president of Middle-earth.
No, he explicitly crowns Aragorn.
He literally puts the crown on the king's head.
He crowns the king, He says, now come the days of the king. He completely and voluntarily steps back into the shadows. He officially ends his stewardship.
That is the ultimate test of true power, isn't it? Being totally willing and able to just lay it down when the job is done.
It is.
And then he just leaves.
He departs at the Grey Havens. And as he gets on that final white ship to sail west, he is openly wearing Narya, the Ring of Fire, on his finger.
Because it's safe now.
The 3 rings are rapidly losing all their magical power because the one ring is finally destroyed. But he wears it openly and proudly now. He has absolutely nothing left to hide.
His job is completely done.
The Third Age ends, the Age of Men finally begins, and the tired angel just gets to go home.
It's honestly such a deeply satisfying character arc. He goes from the reluctant, fearful spirit standing in the back of the room to the quirky old man in the cart, to the ultimate sacrifice in the dark, to the commanding white rider, and then finally he's just Aloran again, sailing home.
It is a perfectly executed circle.
So what does this all practically mean for us, the readers and viewers? Why does this specific character stick with us so deeply? Why are we still fiercely talking about him and analyzing him 70 years after the books were written?
I really think it's because he completely redefines what true power actually looks like. We live in a real world, and we constantly tell stories that are almost entirely defined by domination.
Who has the biggest gun, who has the most money, who has the loudest, most aggressive voice in the room.
Right. And he represents the completely radical idea that the absolute greatest power a person can hold is the firm refusal to dominate others.
The refusal to dominate, that's a really powerful concept to sit with.
He genuinely feared Sauron, not just because Sauron was physically strong, but because he deeply understood how incredibly easy it is to actually become Sauron when you have that much power at your fingertips.
Wow.
He actively shows us that true enduring wisdom isn't at all about knowing how to crush your enemy. It's about knowing exactly how to encourage and uplift your friends. It's about having profound pity. It's about playing the very long, patient game of hope.
And following your nose.
And following your nose when in doubt.
Oh, that is definitely a lot to chew on for today. I am absolutely going to watch the movies with a completely different perspective this weekend. I'm going to be actively looking for the angel hiding under the pointy hat.
As well you should. It changes the whole experience.
Thanks for listening to the AI Analysis Podcast. Keep following your nose.